She asked me to stay after hours. Just the two of us, finishing paperwork in the half-lit office. But it wasn't the work that kept me there. It was her voice, low and tired in a way that made me want to listen closer. Elena always carried herself like someone who had already lived through everything worth knowing. The kind of woman who never rushed, never stumbled, never showed need. She wore quiet like armor. But that night, something in her seemed unguarded. The others had left in a blur of laughter and slamming doors. Then it was just us, the hum of the vending machine, the faint buzz of the fluorescent light above her desk. She'd loosened her hair, just a small thing, but I noticed. The clip sat beside her keyboard like a confession she didn't mean to make. "You don't have to stay," she said, not looking at me. Her tone was careful, professional, like always. "I know," I answered. I didn't move. She signed another form, the pen dragging a little too long on the paper. Her blouse sleeve slipped just enough to show the inside of her wrist. Pale skin, the faint blue vein that pulsed when she tapped her pen against the desk. My eyes caught it for half a second too long. "You're staring again," she murmured, half smiling, not accusing, just noticing. "I wasn't," I lied, and she let it hang there, as if testing whether I'd say more. I didn't. The clock ticked. The printer coughed out another page. Every sound felt magnified in the stillness. She rose from her chair to file something, and I felt the warmth of her pass behind me. Not touching, but close enough that the air shifted. The faint scent of her perfume, something soft, clean, like linen after rain, lingered, then faded as she moved away. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "You're young. You should be out somewhere. Not wasting time with an old woman sorting invoices." That should have made me laugh. Instead, it caught in my throat. "You don't seem old," I said. "You seem—" I stopped there. I didn't know the word for it. Not beautiful, not kind, not intimidating. Something in between all of that. Something harder to admit. She turned then, leaning against the filing cabinet, arms folded. "Careful," she said, eyes glinting. "Flattery can sound like trouble." I wasn't flattering. Her lips twitched, almost a smile, almost pity. "Then that's worse," she said. I pretended to check the clock, but really I was trying to catch my breath. The air felt heavier, like we'd both stepped past a line neither of us wanted to name. I gathered my things slowly, waiting for her to say something, but she stayed quiet, staring out the window at the empty parking lot. Streetlights flickered across her face, breaking the expression into pieces. Calm, regret, maybe something like curiosity. Then she said it, barely above a whisper. "You remind me of someone. Someone you used to know?" She didn't answer, just looked at me, long enough for it to feel like something else entirely. The silence stretched. Then, somewhere down the hall, a door clicked open. Footsteps. Voices. She straightened immediately, smoothing her blouse, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The spell broke in an instant. "Go on," she said, tone clipped again. "You've done enough for tonight." I nodded but didn't move. Her gaze lingered, one beat too long, and for the first time I thought I saw it. The thing she was trying to hide. By the time I reached the door, she called after me. "Noah." I turned. Her eyes held mine. "Next time. Don't stay unless you want to." And then the footsteps grew louder. Someone was coming. And whatever she meant by that disappeared into the sound of the door swinging open. The next morning, Elena acted as if nothing had happened. She moved through the office with that same quiet grace. Her hair pinned back, her voice steady, her smile polite. But every time she passed my desk, I caught something flicker behind her composure. A pause, a shift in her breathing, a quick glance that didn't last long enough to mean anything. Except it did. I told myself it was in my head. I stayed too late, read too much into a look. But when she asked if I could help her sort through the old files in the storage room, again after hours, I didn't even hesitate. The room was small and dusty, lined with forgotten boxes. The air smelled faintly of paper and old coffee. She was close enough that when she reached for a folder above my head, her sleeve brushed my arm. I felt it more than I should have. "You don't have to keep saying yes when I ask," she said lightly. "I don't mind," I replied, not looking at her. "You'd do the same." "I wouldn't," she said after a beat. "I stopped saying yes to things a long time ago." Her tone wasn't bitter, just factual. I turned then, watching the way her fingers lingered on the edge of a file. "Why?" She smiled faintly. "Because it's easier to disappoint yourself than someone else." There was a story behind that. I could feel it in the silence that followed. I wanted to ask, but she was already moving, reorganizing folders, her back to me. The sound of papers shifting filled the room, awkward and soft at the same time. I broke it first. "Were you married?" Her hands froze mid-motion. Then she said, "Was." A long breath. 15 years. "And now?" She gave a small, almost laugh. "Now, I grade essays and forget to water my plants." She turned around then, leaning against the shelf. The light from the hallway fell across her face, softening the lines around her eyes. "And you? You have someone?" "No," I said. "Not really." Her gaze lowered. "Good." It slipped out before she could stop it. Then her lips pressed together, like she wished she could pull it back. I didn't move. "Why good?" She looked at me, steady, unflinching. "Because you're too young to be serious about anyone yet." "You think that's true?" "I know it is." Her voice softened. "You still think you have time." She stepped closer, reaching past me for a box. Her hand brushed my shoulder. Light, almost accidental, but not quite. Her breath brushed my neck as she leaned in, and every part of me went still. She froze too, her fingers hesitating on the cardboard edge. For a heartbeat, neither of us moved. Then she whispered, "You should go before we make a mistake." I should have left. I didn't. Her hand fell to her side, brushing mine. Not a hold, not even a real touch, just the warmth of skin meeting skin. When she finally stepped back, the space between us felt charged, alive. She didn't look at me as she spoke. "Tomorrow," she said quietly, "we'll pretend this didn't happen." But when I left the room, I caught her reflection in the glass door, her eyes still on me, her hand still trembling slightly, as if pretending was already impossible. For 3 days we kept our distance, or tried to. Elena spoke to me like nothing had happened in that storage room. Brisk, polite, professional. She handed me assignments through the assistant, avoided eye contact, never lingered in the same room too long. But avoidance has its own kind of intimacy. You start noticing absence more than presence. By Friday, the silence between us was unbearable. The office was half empty, a long weekend ahead. She was at her desk, reading something on her screen, her brow furrowed. I stopped by to drop off a report. Just routine. Nothing dangerous. "Leave it there," she said, eyes still on the monitor. I did, but I didn't move. Her hand paused on the mouse. I heard her exhale. "You're still here." "Yeah." She turned then, slowly, as if already regretting it. "You shouldn't make things harder." "I'm not trying to." "Then what are you doing?" I didn't know how to answer that. My throat tightened, but before I could say anything, her phone buzzed. The sound sliced through the air. She flinched. A message lit up her screen. "Dinner tonight?" The name Mark X glowed just long enough for me to see it. She reached for the phone too quickly, silencing it, turning it face down. He's no one." I didn't ask, but the question was already between us. "Old habits," she said softly. "Sometimes they call when they remember what they lost." The way she said "they" instead of "he" made me ache. I wanted to touch her. Just her wrist, her shoulder. Something small, something human. But I stopped myself. She stood abruptly, closing the space between us. "You can't look at me like that here." "I can't help it." "Yes, you can." Her voice trembled on the last word. She reached for a folder on the cabinet behind me, but she was too close. Close enough that I could see the faint freckles near her collarbone, the pulse at her throat. Her breath brushed against my jaw when she leaned forward. Time thinned out. Every sound in the office disappeared. No typing, no phones, no footsteps. Just the soft hitch of her breath and the tick of the clock above us. She didn't move away. Neither did I. Her hand hovered near mine on the cabinet's edge, trembling slightly. "This isn't," she started, but didn't finish. And then the door creaked open. A coworker's voice. "Elena? You still here?" We jolted apart like children caught. Papers fluttered off the desk. "In here," she called out, too brightly, stepping back. Her voice snapped back into control. The coworker poked her head in, smiled at me, then at her. "Didn't mean to interrupt." "You didn't," Elena said, her tone perfect again. "Just finishing up." When the door closed, silence returned, heavier now, like smoke. I turned to leave. She caught my sleeve barely, just enough to stop me. Her eyes were wet but steady. "You make me forget who I'm supposed to be," she whispered. And before I could say anything, she let go, as if even that small touch had burned too much. The next week blurred into long hours and longer silences. We passed each other in hallways like ghosts. Polite nods, clipped greetings, all muscle memory and restraint. But every time her hand brushed mine when exchanging papers, or her voice softened on my name, it tore at whatever distance we'd tried to build. That Friday, the storm broke. It was late, the office dark except for her lamp, a small pool of light around her desk. I came back for my notebook, but she was still there, sitting perfectly still, staring at the same page she'd been pretending to read for an hour. "You shouldn't be here," she said, without looking up. "Neither should you." She gave a tired, half-smile. "I can't seem to go home lately." The rain outside hit the windows hard, steady, relentless. I stepped closer, drawn in before I could think. "Elena?" I said quietly. "Are you avoiding me?" She laughed softly, shaking her head. "You make it sound childish." "It feels like it." Her eyes lifted to mine. "You don't understand what you're doing." "I do." "No," she stood abruptly. "You're too young to know how something like this ends." Her voice cracked, betraying her composure for the first time. "Then tell me," I said. "Tell me how it ends." She looked at me as if she wanted to, really wanted to, but the words never came. Instead, she pressed a hand to her temple, breathing shallowly. "You think I haven't been where you are? That I don't remember what it's like to want something you shouldn't touch?" I stepped closer. "Then stop pretending you don't want it too." Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "Don't say that." But I already had. The air felt electric, pulsing between us. She turned away, but I caught the edge of her sleeve, gently. "Elena!" She froze. I moved closer, slow enough for her to stop me if she wanted. She didn't. I brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. My fingers trembled. "You should go," she whispered, not moving. "I don't want to." Her breath hitched. Her eyes closed for a heartbeat. And when she opened them again, they were full of everything she'd been holding back. "You'll hate me for this," she said softly. "Try me." She exhaled, shaky. "You remind me of what it felt like to be alive." The words hit hard. Too honest, too raw. She stepped closer. The light caught the faint line of her collarbone, the small tremor in her hand when she reached up to touch my face. Her fingers grazed my jaw barely, and stayed there. For a moment the world stilled. The rain, the clock, the hum of electricity, all gone. Just her breath against my skin, warm and unsteady. I leaned in, not enough to cross the line, just enough to feel how thin it was. Her lips parted, and then a loud knock at the door. We both flinched. Her hand dropped. A voice called from the hall. "Elena? Lights are still on. You okay in there?" She swallowed hard, eyes locked on mine. "Don't move." She stepped away, smoothed her blouse, tried to steady her voice. "Just finishing up," she called back. When the footsteps faded, she turned toward me. Eyes darker, voice barely a whisper. "This can't keep happening," she said, but her hand was still trembling. And when she finally looked up again, she didn't step back this time. Monday started with whispers. Something was off the moment I walked in, the glances, the sudden silences when I passed. Elena wasn't in her office. Her door, usually cracked open, was shut tight. By noon I found out why. "She's taking the week off," one of the assistants said. "Some issue with HR, I think." HR. The word landed like a punch. I tried to ask, casually, what happened, but the assistant just shrugged. "Someone said you two were getting close." I kept my expression flat, forced a half smile. "Close? Like friends?" The look she gave me said she didn't buy it. "You didn't hear that from me?" she said, already walking away. The rest of the day I couldn't focus. I kept replaying the last moment in that dim office, the breath between us, wondering if someone had seen. By the time I made it home, a message was waiting on my phone. "Elena, don't call, please. It's better if this stops now." I stared at it for a long time before typing back, then deleting what I wrote over and over until there was nothing left to say. But that night I went anyway. The rain had returned, soft this time, tapping against her apartment windows when she finally opened the door. Her eyes were tired. Not angry, not surprised, just tired, like she'd been expecting me. "You shouldn't be here," she said again. "Someone told HR," I said quietly. "Was it you?" Her expression flickered. Guilt, maybe, or relief. "I had to," she whispered. "They were already asking questions. It was easier if it came from me." "So you told them there was something?" She shook her head. "I told them there wasn't." Her voice trembled. "But they didn't believe me." I stepped closer. "Then why does it feel like you're lying to both of us?" She closed her eyes. "Because I am." Silence filled the space between us, sharp, fragile. She turned away, gripping the edge of the kitchen counter, knuckles white. "You think this is simple," she said. "You think I'm scared of them, of gossip. But it's not that. I'm scared of what it means if I stop pretending." Her voice broke on the last word. I moved closer before I could stop myself. She didn't turn around, but when I reached out, my hand brushed the back of hers. Cold, trembling. She didn't pull away. Her shoulders sagged, and she whispered, "When I was your age, I ruined someone. I promised I wouldn't do that again." The words hit harder than I expected. "You think that's what this is?" Her laugh was soft, bitter. "No, that's what makes it worse." I turned her gently, my hand finding her cheek. Her skin was warm beneath my thumb, her breath unsteady. She didn't step back, but she didn't lean in either. "This is going to destroy something," she said, voice barely a breath. "Then let it," I said. Her eyes widened, fear, want, something in between. Outside, thunder rolled again, low and distant. She looked toward the door, then back at me, torn between staying and running. Finally, she whispered, "Tomorrow. Meet me after everyone's gone." Her voice shook. "No more pretending." And before I could speak, she closed the door, leaving me in the hallway, soaked, heartbeat loud enough to drown out the storm. The building was empty again, quiet, almost reverent. The hum of the vending machine, the flicker of a hallway light. Everything felt exactly as it had the first night, except this time, there was no pretending we didn't know why we were there. Her office door was half open. I stood outside for a few seconds, listening. No typing, no movement, just her breath. When I stepped in, she didn't turn around. She was standing by the window, city lights reflecting against the glass. Her reflection looked calm, but her hands were clenched, the faintest tremor running through her fingers. "I almost didn't come," I said. "I almost told you not to." She turned then, slowly, carefully, as though afraid one wrong move would make the whole thing collapse. Her eyes found mine, searching for anger, or hope, or something steadier than what we'd been living inside. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Finally, she said, "You're going to regret this one day." I stepped closer. "Then I'll deal with it one day. Not tonight." She exhaled, a small, helpless sound, like someone surrendering to gravity. You think this is about fear. It's not. It's about knowing how much this could break. I reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. My hand lingered near her jaw, close enough to feel the heat of her skin, not enough to cross the line yet. Maybe things break either way, I said. She closed her eyes, leaning slightly into the touch she shouldn't have allowed. You make everything sound so simple. It's not, I said, but I'd rather choose something honest than keep pretending I don't care. Her eyes opened then, and I saw it, the shift. The wall she'd built cracking just enough for truth to slip through. When she spoke, her voice was unsteady. You have no idea how long I've been waiting for someone to see me this way again. The space between us disappeared. Not from a decision, just gravity. She rested her forehead against mine, her breath warm against my lips. Neither of us moved for a long time. We just stayed there, suspended, caught between what we wanted and what we shouldn't. Her hand rose to my chest, fingers trembling. If we do this, she whispered, everything changes. Then let it change. Silence. Then, a quiet, broken laugh. You're going to ruin me. Her eyes were wet when she finally met mine. And I'm going to let you. The world narrowed, light, sound, thought, until all that was left was the closeness, the pulse between us, the quiet honesty of what we'd both been trying not to say. She didn't pull away, neither did I, and in that stillness, without even touching, we both understood. It wasn't about the kiss or the wanting. It was about recognition, two people finally seen, even if just for one night. When she finally spoke again, her voice was soft, resolved. Now you know, she said. Now we both do. The storm passed by morning. The world outside Elena's office window looked washed clean. Streets glistening, air sharp with the smell of rain. Inside, everything felt quieter too, as if even the room was holding its breath after what had nearly happened. We didn't speak right away. She sat on the edge of her desk, arms crossed loosely, eyes distant but calm. I stood near the window, tracing the drops sliding down the glass. Every now and then, our eyes met, and that was enough. No tension, no fear, just quiet recognition. She broke the silence first. So, she said softly, this is the part where we either make it complicated or we let it be what it is. I turned toward her. What if it doesn't have to be complicated? She smiled faintly. It already is. Look at us. I am, I said. That made her laugh. A small, genuine sound that made her look 10 years younger. She shook her head, glancing at the floor. You shouldn't say things like that. Why not? Because I might start believing them again. She stood, slow and deliberate, and walked toward me. When she stopped, we were close enough that I could see the faint line where her lipstick had faded. She reached for my hand, hesitant at first, then firmer once I didn't pull away. Do you regret it? She asked. No, I said. Do you? Her thumb brushed the back of my hand. Not the part where you stayed. I smiled. Which part do you regret? Then, her gaze softened. The part where I tried to pretend I didn't want you to. We stood there for a long moment, just breathing the same air. There was no rush, no fear of being caught, only the fragile kind of peace that comes after too much holding back. When she finally leaned forward, it wasn't desperate or reckless, just quiet. She rested her forehead against mine, eyes closed. My hands found her waist, gentle, steady. This doesn't have to be forever, she whispered. But it has to be honest. I can do honest. She smiled again, tired, warm, real. Then she pressed a kiss to my cheek, lingering just long enough to feel the shape of the moment before it passed. We didn't talk about what came next. We didn't need to. Some things don't need to be labeled to be real. As we walked out together, her hand brushed mine once, then stayed. Outside, the air was cool and fresh, the first light of morning spilling across the parking lot. She looked at me, not like a secret anymore, but like someone choosing to be seen. And for the first time since that first late night, there was no hesitation, just quiet certainty. Whatever it was between us, it was ours now. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?